Tommy Leeman,
Yes, I think so.
and he's running for mayor.
Thank you. Keeping it simple. As the introduction was, I'm Tommy Leeman. I am running for mayor for the city of Norfolk. And start off just a little information about myself. I've been here since 1975. Grew up in Ocean View, actually Ocean View Elementary all the way to Granby High School. When I graduated from Granby High School, I entered into the National Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee with International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, local union meeting. I graduated from there at the top of my class. I had perfect attendance through 5 years of school, and actually got invited back to teach at the vocational center on Military Highway for 3 years. So I did that. During that period of time, I opened up my own electrical business. I was one of the youngest master electricians in the state of Virginia at the time. So I opened up Leeman Electric, merged with Lucas and Leeman Electric, and then ultimately I sold that business to J&K Electric and went into finance. Started at a firm called A.G. Edwards. Worked there for about 21 years, and they opened a new office 4 years ago, Stewart Parker's, which is located in downtown Norfolk. And my wife here, she actually is a graduate of Moray High School, so we have a nice little rivalry from time to time in conversations. Both our children are through Norfolk Public Schools. One actually went to Granby through the International Baccalaureate program. The other one went to Moray, so we like to say that we've kept the rivalry alive at the dinner table on an ongoing basis. As far as community involvement, I've coached Little League Baseball from Ward's Corner to NAS to Fleet Park. For many years, I'm actually an assistant district administrator for District 8 for Little League here, International. I'm also been a assistant high school baseball coach at Granby High School for 13 years. So, very involved community. I sit on the board for Fort Kids. I'm now the current foundation chairman there. I'm also been the past president for the Downtown Norfolk Council. I'm no longer the chair because I'm running for mayor, so I'm still on the board. So I'll be stepping off the board on November 6th after the election is over to take the seat as mayor. One of the things with the topics, and there's some literature in front of you. I have some signs that you can take. A few people here have jotted down a couple of questions. But as far as running for mayor, I'm not running for the office. I'm running to serve you as the citizens and residents of Norfolk. It's extremely important to me. I've been here so long that I've gotten frustrated with a lot of things in downtown Norfolk and working and talking with real estate agents when they say, hey, you're going to move to Norfolk? And they say, no, I'm told not to move to Norfolk. The schools are not very good. I need to go somewhere else. Well, that's a shame because we have good schools here. It's just not perceived that way. But then talking to educators, one of the big things that I've found out is that the children haven't changed as much as the parents have changed, and then the parents have influenced the principals. The principals are now listening to the downtown administration, so the teachers, the educators don't feel supported. So they're going themselves to other schools. So we have this big evolution, and when I go back and I started looking through this when I was the chair of the Downtown Norfolk Council, is in the last 8 years, how many city managers have we had? How many superintendents of schools have we had? How many economic development directors have we had? How many chief of police have we had? And at that point, I decided it was time to make a change, and that change was, we need a new mayor. We don't need people coming to the table. We need a whole new table. We need all new chairs. We need a whole new ideas to change Norfolk on a different direction. When I look back and I think about our public safety, Norfolk is safe overall, but it's not perceived that way. And when I've spoken to the police officers and the first responders, one of their biggest things is that, hey, the pay's gotten better, but I can also make just as much money or a little bit more, maybe a little bit less at a different city. So I'm gonna go there. I don't know who my boss is gonna be. I've had 3 chief of police since I've been here. So we had, again, turnover. When we think back also about food insecurity, we're building all these apartments, which is good because then it is going to help with housing, but people have nowhere to shop, whether it's retail or whether it's going grocery shopping. And then when I have found out when they aren't able to go grocery shopping, they're not able to buy the foods they want because a Family Dollar is not a grocery store. And there's a great program up in DC that I've been reading about, so I've been working with Feast that sells there, and it's called DC Kitchens. And so fabulous to say that they actually are providing fresh fruits and vegetables to these other little bodegas and markets in these neighborhoods that are compromised. We have to fix that. We talked about, flooding and infrastructure. Well, the big thing with flooding is that we have to get our citizens like yourselves, you come to these civic league meetings and you get engaged. I want you as a citizen in your neighborhood to reach out to the city of Norfolk and say, hey, there's a problem. My stormwater drain has a flower pot growing out of it. We gotta get that cleaned. But then you do that and then you get frustrated because 6 months later, it's now not done. So when it does rain here like it did a few days ago, what was it, 3 days ago, 4 days ago, and it rains hard, the water has nowhere to go. When you're at sea level and the water can't get out, well, then it just floods in other areas. So we got a pretty informal group, so I can talk about a couple of different topics, but really what I want to do is be the mayor that listens to you, that's accountable to you, and that's around for you. So I'll open it up for some questions and kind of keep it informal as we can. If there's something I don't have an answer to, I will address it on my website. There's a Tommy Talks that goes out on Tuesdays from questions I get, and then I relay them that way. Yes, former chair, the president.
Well, question is, you talk about being mayor and all that, but you answer to the city manager.
Not true.
Other way around.
I hired the city manager.
How come this? It's just he dictates the policies.
City council dictates the policies.
I'm in disbelief of that because it seems like the city manager, if he don't get his way, he whines like a baby and says, "Hey, I'm quit," or give me a pay increase.
It's a she now.
That's Pat Roberts.
It's a he.
No.
It's a guy.
Pat Roberts.
Yeah,
He just came from Suffolk. He was hired last summer this time. Almost a year,
Right.
it's a year ago.
yeah. I mean, the guy before him, he was a real piece of work, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, personalities are certainly subjective, but as far as, again, the city manager is hired by the city council and the mayor. So Marcus Jones, Doug Smith, Chip Filer, and Pat Roberts have all been hired by the current administration. And that city manager, in my opinion, is one of the most important individuals, he or she, in the city of Norfolk, because that's who the 50,000 employees work for. But the city manager works for the city council. And remember, the mayor is still a person on council. The mayor only has one vote, just like every other city council person. Well, a lot of people think that the mayor has more power than he or she really does. The mayor has one vote. The one thing that the mayor gets to do is set the consent agenda. So if you don't want to talk about it, it doesn't get on the agenda. And that's a big thing. That's one of the big things about the advantage of being a mayor, which is why I know that we have to make that change, because the voices are not heard. City council, it's very frustrating to hear city council see city council not take any action, because there's nothing on the agenda that's worth action. I mean, we just saw that city council on Tuesday. Residents are frustrated that they voted, city council themselves voted 6-2 to issue a developer at 1500 Monticello Avenue. I don't know if y'all followed that or not, but it's a raising canes is what they're doing there. And the developer wants to put 3 parcels in there, or 3 businesses in there. And the planning commission voted it down, and the city staff said, no, it's not a good idea, but the city council actually approved it. And that's creating a lot of frustration. So it's one of those things like, well, the people that you've appointed to your commission, so maybe we need to take another look at that, said no, but yet you just voted them 6-2. So we're gonna put this in, and part of that idea was told to me was because if 1500 is where the Chick-fil-A is down there. I don't know where it is. The thing about the Chick-fil-A, it's running this way, and they had to do it that way because they couldn't go this way because of the easements for the drive-through. And so the developer doesn't want to do it this way because if they do it this way, they can't put 3 developments on it. So instead of putting 2, they want 3, and to get that, the city council, the mayor approved it for approval over planning council and Norfolk City staff. Did I answer your question at least?
You did a good politician job beating Bush.
I just told you who was running the city, and it's the city manager runs the city.
Hey, and I got another problem too, is the city, like you said, the city council said, hey, let's put this right here in downtown. That's one of my biggest beefs about this city is, you got all this area to put businesses in, but you want to jam it downtown and just make everything so congested down there.
Yeah, don't disagree. I'm the former chair of the Downtown Norfolk Council. I still don't understand some of the things that they decided to do. You had a question?
Yes,
You got a notebook.
I'm the
She's our
secretary.
secretary.
Oh, okay, good.
Too fast. I hear you. So piggybacking back on what you said about, with, no, my mind is not right.
All right, another question while she thinks about it?
Please.
Yeah, I have one.
Yes.
Please, is there anything that you can do to stop taking traffic travel lanes away to make bike lanes that people do not use?
That's a city manager. Well, one thing is that, so I found out in conversation with civic leagues is that a lot of people are not necessarily 100% upset with the bike lanes, they're upset with how they're implemented. And one of the big things about that is they get money from the federal grants and they have to spend the money. So then they just come in and they just do it real quick. It's like you gotta spend it or lose it. And then unfortunately, once it's in, we can't go back and make it right. So there are some really good bike lanes that people do use, but there's some other bike lanes that I wouldn't recommend anybody use.
The one on Ocean View is not safe.
I know.
It's just not safe.
I wouldn't disagree.
I travel through there a lot. It is not safe. It's not safe because it is an impediment to the rest of traffic to have only two lanes going east and west on Ocean View. There's too much traffic for that travel corridor to have a bike lane on the other side. It's ridiculous.
Well, and unfortunately, part of that is because there's no plan. There's no vision by the city council and certainly by the current mayor. There's no plan. And once that's in, it's hard to get it back out. And they didn't go to the civic leagues down there, and I feel listen to them. And that's one of the biggest things I think with running for election this year is out of the 6 seats that are available in the local election, 5, the incumbents are not running. And to me, that speaks volumes of this election. The only incumbent is the current mayor. Everybody else has said, I'm gonna go do something else. And that's part of that, why the mayor sets the agenda, and I think they've gotten frustrated.
Well, I think they're fixing to do the same thing on Raymond Street, which it's just.
They're gonna looking at taking it from 3 lanes down to 2.
It's just as much traffic as there is on the.
Part of that is they want it to be a multimodal city, and that's a little challenging in a lot of ways. But they need to get the feedback, and one of the things that the people that are certainly here tonight on a rainy day is to certainly voice your concerns and be heard, whether it's at the civic league meeting, whether it's coming to the city council. But certainly, I stress getting in touch with your city council representative. He or she has that voice, and one of the things that I have heard in the multiple civic leagues I've been talking to since I got on the ballot on January 8th was nobody is listening at all, and that's very frustrating. You might not always like the answer, but they're not listening to it and providing you, hey, what about this part? I mean, right now the city just voted on Tuesday to change the speed limits on Colley Avenue to 20 miles an hour. Most people didn't know that. They put the signs up before, but they approved it to an ordinance. So now it's 20 miles an hour. They wanted to slow it down because of the bike lanes.
Hey, Tommy.
Thank you, question.
Yes.
Wait, I don't want her to forget again. Yeah.
For a point of your clarification, there's only 3 council positions that are being voted up for vote. You running for mayor, Danica, which is the super ward, and Angela, which is
And then 3 school board.
and 3 school ward. But city council, there is only 3 positions that are up. The other city
I
council,
said on the general on the ballot.
right? But
There's 5.
just so the clarification correct, there's only 3 for council.
It's 3 for council and 3 for school board.
Tommy Stable is mortified, and he has talked to us frequently about just getting outvoted as a council member on things, some of the things that he was speaking about and stuff like that. So we have a voice in Tommy, but it doesn't, the rest of the council doesn't always listen to the voices and listen to the reasoning that he's bringing apart. He's been a very big advocate for a lot of stuff in this area.
when you say he's been outvoted, I can go back and you can look at all the records that there's been a 6-0 or a 7-0 or an 8-0 vote. There's not been too many people that are voting in the negative. So go back and check somebody's voting records when they tell you that, just so you know. Because there's a lot of 6-0, 7-0, 8-0 records. You can see what every council person has voted for. I know the last vote, which was very unusual, which was a 6-2 vote for the Zaxby, for the Raising Canes, a very unusual vote to see 6-2. Most of the time it's 8-0.
It's very unusual for them not to agree with the planning commission too.
Huh?
It's really unusual for them not to agree with the planning commission.
Correct. So it went the opposite direction. Normally it goes in, they're gonna get the presentation, and they go into closed session, they come out, and it's sort of already milled
It's a
around.
waste of time, right, because they already made it around.
Yeah, so for it to be the exact opposite for the planning commission to get voted down, and the city staff, and then it to get approved overwhelmingly 6-2, and Councilman Spiegel was not one of the people that voted against it. Question again.
You were talking about the Grammy Street bike lanes and stuff like that. That road
He
between.
did, I just
Well,
said yes.
I'm just gonna elaborate on that. HRT and bicycles don't mix. I mean, you're gonna have to take bicycle lane on the very outside edge, and how's the bus gonna pull over and pick up passengers when there's bicycles coming through, or bicycles behind them, or bicycles in front of them? It's just a no-win situation as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I feel that they're not actively listening to the concerns. They're showing up, they're taking the pictures, they're taking what you're saying and they're putting it on a sticky note, but they're not listening to you and taking that back and coming up with a better solution or a different solution. I don't disagree with that.
Can I comment on?
Comment or, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you're in
So,
charge.
Liz Sleeper, who's the president of White Norfolk, she was at the Tuesday night meeting about the fishing pier. Somebody asked about that, the bikes, the bike lanes, and I don't know what the plan is, but she said there was a plan in place to deal with the bikes and the buses using the same space. I don't know what that is, but.
So that would probably go back to the transparency of you not knowing. Why keep it a secret? Why not share that good news?
Because we were there for the fishing pier,
I know.
we weren't for.
Yeah, the
bikes.
fishing pier, did you get some good information on that, by the way?
I did, there's very few people who were for it. People in the surrounding neighborhood are very upset about it, they don't want.
With 10
people-
parking spots.
Yeah, 10 bar. And understand that the picture they're showing you is not actually what's gonna happen. It's just a pier that goes out. And then the second is the phase that ties around. So it's just a spot to fish here to that.
10
People are already
parking spots.
fishing there, so.
Yeah. Say, you had another, I saw somebody's hand go up.
I did have a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so you commented about the, like the storm drains that are big clogged and you call and they pump them out. Okay, so what would be your plan going forward to try to solve that problem?
Well, for one, you need to have a preventative maintenance plan in place, versus be proactive versus reactive. One of the things I found out is that if they're not being cleaned or not being cleaned out, the resident calls in, and then what happens, and a lot of people don't know this, is they put in a service request. And then they put in a service request, and then fairly quickly, the service request is closed. Well, that's because they just take the information and then distribute it to the department. And a lot of residents are confused by that because they think, oh, it's closed, so that task must be completed. No, it's just completed on the service request side. It's now gone to the department. And one of the things I was talking with one of the people that work for the city is, we're trying to get people, and I don't know what that means when they say they're trying to get people to, but to get the service request number and write that down or keep it in your email or if you've called it in, and that way you can follow up wherever it's been directed to the following department. But that's one of the big parts, that, hey, we've called about this, we've called about an abandoned car, we've called about streetlights, we've called, and it's like, oh yeah, well, the streetlight's been burned out, so I sent a service request. Well, it's been closed, and you go out and the light's still burned out. Well, what they're realizing is it's been sent on to Dominion Energy, and that creates another step.
Okay, I'm going to step in on this one because I'm one of the ones who are actively involved with that, with my Norfolk, Leeman, and all that. The only department in the city of Norfolk that closes and gets sent to is the Department of Utilities. because they have their own call center. So it gets transferred into their call center. The two call centers at current do not communicate. But My Norfolk and the whole that section has now been transferred up directly under the city manager. And that is in the process of Department of Utilities will be feeding into the My Norfolk. That should be happening in about 2.5 months. Now, the Dominion Power, totally different company. City of Norfolk will take and put that in for you, but they actually direct you to the website of Dominion Power because they actually have no control of Dominion Power and those things. In our own neighborhood where I live, we have a street light that keeps going out. We keep going back to Dominion Power. But My Norfolk and the city has nothing to do with streetlights directly other than facilitating, taking that information and sending it to. But everything else that is in My Norfolk, they are very open now, except for Department of Utilities, and that is actually changing because I've now sat in 9 meetings concerning that and very much been involved in making that. And Sherry's actually been involved in that last year and a bunch of stuff. So between Sherry and I, Halima, and a whole bunch of other city people, we've been very active getting that more integrated to the city and how to use your mobile phone and things like that. So partly what you're saying is incorrect, completely incorrect. They do not close these. They stay open until that department finishes that order.
That is not true.
Except for Department of Utilities. Except for Department of Utilities.
No, that's not accurate.
Yeah, I use it all the time and it comes back saying closed.
Not unless it's,
I just did it on Tuesday.
for what department?
Huh?
For what department and what service?
One was for trash removal, one was for an abandoned car, and the other was for people's homelessness camped out over near the Fresh Market off of 21st
Yeah, I
Street.
called for a narcotics drug house.
I'm saying, it's getting better,
Yeah.
but it still gets closed. And when I just spoke at the last Civic League meeting, the actual resource officer echoed that point, what I just spoke about, and said, and I said, yeah, we close
Other than
this
narcotics, because that's a police incident, I'd like to see those service ticket numbers from you because I will gladly follow up with Halima and Doug Beaver, that's under his group.
Yeah. Okay.
For my second job, I drive around a lot, and I tend to see a lot of homelessness. What would you do to address the problem?
One of the big things we have to do is continue with the Community Services Board, and that's also a big issue right now. I actually personally took a tour on Monday with Union Mission, and how do they get the intake over there and people calling in. The big thing with the homelessness is a lot of times it's a mental thing, and we have to find the proper person to come talk to them, and they don't want help sometimes. It's tough to do that, and we have to stay engaged. I mean, without a doubt. It's not an easy solution, but we have to stay on top of it. The Community Services Board, I think, has been doing a better job here last few years when they took over the place behind Burger King right off Tidewater Drive. But it's a limited number. I mean, even the gentleman at the Union Mission says the intakes is extremely tough because they have to turn people away. So you're trying to work with that, trying to work with Salvation Army, you're also trying to work with CHKD. Again, with 4 kids that I'm former board member of, and also the foundation chair now, it's tough. You just got to keep going after it. We also have to have people that don't encourage the homelessness by feeding and things like that. Refer them to services, the panhandlers and things of that nature. Questions? Yeah, go on.
Revisit the water drainage.
Uh-huh.
So other than aside from Norfolk Cares, fix that, what would you do to like more funding for infrastructure, or do we need to start embracing retreat versus trying to go back to the ocean?
Well, I think we have to embrace the ocean. I'm not a fan of the storm of the wall, the seawall that they're proposing. I think Norfolk here is surrounded by water. Will always be surrounded by water. We had the Dutch dialogues here in 2015. What did we implement from that study? We have to, the wall itself is not a flood wall in my mind. It's a catastrophic wall. It's one that we have to figure out a way to embrace the water. We have to plant proper plants. We have to look at ground use. We have to look at things that are going to keep the water when it comes in, let it go where it wants to go. if you ever see a map of what Norfolk was 250 years ago and what it is today, where it floods, that's where water was, and that's where the water's gonna go. Nature is going to always win, so we have to find ways that we're doing things properly with plants, trees. We have to be a little more conscious of what we're doing with our space, because we're losing land mass underneath as far as on the from erosion, and we're not very proactive. I mean, there's a spot I saw at the civic league meeting. The person brought up civic league meeting over in Ghent neighborhood. A part of the Hague wall has fallen in, and it's been that way. And I would think that would be sort of maybe an emergency repair, but instead they just keep widening the cones as the wall just keeps going in.
And it just seems like Norfolk is just falling off the board as far as caring about the city at all. I mean, our roads are horrible. I mean, I've replaced my tires on my car more than I believe I should have to of this several past years. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, like, we're falling apart.
You're talking about flooding, and yet we're putting a casino
Yeah, or
in the
we're
middle of
buying
a pool.
We're buying a mall. What the heck are we buying a mall?
Well, the casino is another, I'm glad that you brought that up.
We're putting it in the middle of a pool pretty soon.
Well, the casino itself probably, I'm not pro-casino. I'm not anti-gambling, but I'm not pro-casino at all. And certainly the casino where it was going, the location, it should have never been on the referendum, certainly in the location. We also have partnered with two people, a Monkey Tribe and John Yarbrough. Neither one has ever actually operated a casino or built a casino or done anything with a casino. And one of the things that we've had is Cordish, which manages the Waterside District. They have been actively suing the city for $100 million because they thought that they should have gotten the casino. The city of Norfolk has won, but I'm pretty sure Cordish is going to appeal that again. We're also paying, it's kind of ironic when you're paying Cordish to manage that property and then they're suing you because they didn't get the casino. But that's a big deal.
But
And,
Waterside's gonna be in the middle of a pool by your own statement. Either Waterside's gonna be in the middle of a pool by your own statement. That whole area floods.
Yeah.
The casino really doesn't belong
About 500 years.
down there.
Yeah,
Well, Waterside doesn't, I mean, that area doesn't flood. There's nothing, I mean, I don't disagree with that. We do have water rise, but nothing new floods differently than it did 25, 30 years ago.
But does the casino really belong down there when it could be in,
I
not
don't think
debating
the
a casino or
belongs
not?
anywhere over there.
Yeah,
I
I
would
know.
love to see that be the boat ramp that's back there, and the kayak or the pier that they put in at whatever point. Most people don't even know what's back there.
Yeah.
I mean, make that a good spot. I mean, why not look at building a parking garage for Harbor Park, and then also back there, let that be a space for people to go kayaking, pull their boats up, make it a boat stop, another alternative back there. Make it something besides what Bessie's Boathouse was 30 years ago.
Right, but we've got Military Circle. Put the casino at Military Circle, which we know ain't gonna flood.
Well, let's not have the casino at all over there. Let's turn Military Circle into maybe a sportsplex
That makes-
and get, get these
Clean that
soccer
up
teams, get
around
these
there.
baseball teams. As I mentioned earlier about baseball coach, I traveled all over to go to, whether it's up and down the East Coast, to go to Cal Ripken. Let's go to these places. I mean, Virginia Beach has done a phenomenal job with their soccer.
Yeah.
They just put in, I think, another additional 10 AstroTurf fields over there. They're one of the largest AstroTurf fields on the East Coast for soccer plexes.
Right.
They sell out.
We don't have that desire for anybody to come and visit Norfolk. I mean, you barely got these, Ocean View. That's maybe a little bit of a.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Well,
yeah.
kind of-
Well, at the Pinewell, I spoke to Pinewell Civic they're nervous because the Harris Teeter they have that's just across the street from the open space, the city bought Greenies and it's still nothing there. When we're doing a lot of accumulating, the current mayor talks about not having taxable assets, but we keep buying properties and not with no plan.
Right.
I've yet to meet a developer who buys something without a plan already. And we've been doing that a lot.
Like 2 malls, not just one. Two.
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah.
But kind of the point of bringing it like to Military Circle area is at least you're taking it out of a congested area of traffic, which is right next to Portsmouth anyway, but putting it up where people can come in from Chesapeake, people can come from Virginia Beach, 264, instead of having to go downtown into where we already have a traffic problem 90% of the time, putting it up where there's a better traffic patterning in, and it's not gonna flood. you know, where it's gonna be now, it is gonna be in water in probably 10 years.
Okay. Another question? Note taker.
What are your plans for the continuing tearing down of the low income housing and that's been built in the fifties to update the whole area and try to get rid of crime and all that kind of stuff? What's your stand and plan on all that stuff?
So, well, the Kindred, which is now the old St. Paul's project that they started, which has been a really good revitalization of that neighborhood, that started many years ago. One of the things I've been more nervous about is, and that was in the paper recently, that people, as this is going to be coming online, people are not really wanting to come back because they don't want to leave the neighborhoods they've been in. So that's a challenge. As far as like Tidewater Gardens and Calvert Square and other places, I mean, there's not a big plan. There's no federal money for that right now. You know.
What do you mean they're not wanting to come back?
Oh, so the people that ever give them vouchers when the
Right,
neighborhood
because they can go anywhere.
because they went everywhere and they're
Right.
not coming back. So my biggest fear is what are we doing to convince those individuals to come back to what is going to be called Kindred?
Okay, continuing on with the plan, I mean, if they have left and they're finding better lives, that's great. Then what is your plan to develop the area and make it more viable for the city as a whole in the future?
I don't have a plan for that yet. I haven't. That's one of those. That's a big topic, and it's a very difficult solution. But it's a difficult problem to talk about. One of the big things I've been more concerned is that they haven't been talking about it. I mean, I can give you an idea, but of how to solve it. But that's why I'm trying to go to those communities and find out what do they need, and or what do they want necessarily, because they really don't want to go anywhere else. What I have found out is that every civic league and neighborhood that I've gone to is very passionate about their neighborhood. They don't want to leave. What they want to do is they want you to clean it up and give it some attention. And that's one of the big things. I was over at Chesterfield Heights and Grady Village a few weeks ago, and that was the big 115, 112, whatever $1 million project over there for the Ohio Watershed Project. And there was a big ribbon cutting on June 21st, 2023, and I just spoke there and said, hey, we're all done, it's 100% complete, we're finished. Big ribbon cutting, mayor, everybody's there, and the residents are like, it's not finished. It's not done at all. Like, we still have flooding, we still have concerns. I mean, I got a nice little tour of the neighborhood that they walked me around to show a few things that they're talking about. And they said the city has told them there's no more money to fix this. And then, these are the residents talking to me, and it's been very, I think they're very excited to somebody to lend them an ear, because I joked that, certainly everyone came out to take the picture, but nobody took the time to come back and fix the problem. And they said every time they start talking to somebody in Norfolk, that person is no longer there, and they got to start the story back over. So it's gotten better, but it's the evolution. So that's a perfect example of a neighborhood that people love. They're very passionate about their neighborhood. We got this nice project that we worked on, and very little input from the residents because they're not happy about it. And if you look it up and go over there, you can't actually get out of your car on the passenger side. You have to stop somewhere else and then get out, and then person parks. And then you have to walk around your house because of the way they did that for the flooding over there. And then the one gentleman he said, well, this area never flooded and now it always floods.
But her point of the Kindred, so you're saying they're not going back to it, so what do you propose they do with the houses that nobody's going back to?
Well, I assume they're going to be coming back. It's just slower than what they planned. They thought people were going to flock back to the neighborhood, but why would they, why am I going to go back here when there's nowhere to shop? There's no grocery store. It's a food desert over here. I'm going to stay where I am or wherever I was. So that was in the paper.
A new life for themselves.
Yeah. I said they won't come back, but
Very positive.
they're also in a different school district.
Oh, yeah.
So they're where they've been for several years. They might not, want to uproot their children and their families where they were and their friends to move to another neighborhood. I mean, these are all things that is in the Virginia Pilot and other news sources that are reporting for the city of Norfolk. I mean, that's it's all there on that part. So that's the key. It's like, not that they might not come back, but they have to have a reason to come back. And schools is not the answer right now. There's nowhere to shop over there for that area at all.
So if you become mayor, what do you propose they do?
As far, well, I'd love to take the mall and turn that into like a Nordstrom's and make it like a grocery store over there. I mean, in theory, I'd put the Nordstrom's and they make that a grocery store and make the Dillard's the casino. And then I'd take the third developed, non-developed area that never happened, the third pad, and I'd like to, back in 2017, I wanted to make it wanted to give Apple, if I was the chair of the Downtown Norfolk Council, I wanted to give Apple and have a standalone 2-story glass Apple building right there with an atrium connected to the mall, because if you give it to Apple, people will come. And now we don't have an Apple, and we don't have a mall.
Yeah, I know what you're doing.
There's no vision, at all.
I kind of thought when the city purchased the mall that they were gonna move City Hall into there and, sell that other property or whatever. I don't know if they own that property City Hall's on or not, but I thought that kind of made sense. Parking, for everybody, but then that's not the plan.
There was talk at one point about turning the old Nordstrom's into a city facility,
Yeah,
but it's not
makes sense.
compatible with the way it's broken up.
Um,
Per the study.
Right.
We love to study
I
the
just
studies.
wonder about all these studies that are done, like, I own a property in East Beach in the flooded areas with the study of, the answer to, the stormwater drainage. So they started phase 1 and now we're not even funded fully to end phase 1. And my street supposedly got bumped up to 2, which now is like forever not probably gonna happen. And my property floods. And like the theory of it, like they wasted money, I feel like, on what they started. It doesn't even look to be proper. Curbs that we know, the city allowed, a building company to come in and rebuild, homes on property that, was, the grades were done improperly, which now floods other homes that are existing. On my street, particularly on 13th Bay, there's no curves. They didn't make this builder put in curves at all. So, the water runoff, flooding, we used to flood when the storms came. Now we flood just from regular rain runoff because it was done improperly. It's like no one's studying anything, it makes me wonder, all across the board. Wasting money, and then here we are reinventing the wheel all over again.
Yeah, but that's what I've heard a lot of times, is that we love to study the studies.
Yeah.
And then we implement 4 ideas. But, Councilman Smeagol, that's what I would continue to reach out to.
Oh, I've done all that.
Okay.
I've done all that. Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm supposedly, being assisted, but it's been several years.
And frustration.
Yeah, yeah.
You had another question?
What is your stance on closing some schools that are like 200 people or?
Speak up.
Oh, her question is, what's my?
Policy on closing some of the schools, because of the studies done about, that would make good sense to close some schools, consolidate some things, but then nobody paid attention to the studies because people were complaining that they didn't want the school out of their neighborhood.
Right.
So
It's always,
what's your
yes, that
stance on
sounds like a great idea until you wanna touch my school, right?
Right.
That's normally
So
what happens.
what's your plan on that?
So, well, for one, certainly having the city manager, school board, city council, working together, and the superintendent on looking at that. We have to potentially close schools, or a school. We have to take something offline. Students, City of Norfolk no longer has a Class 6 high school, which is the highest, which is based on enrollments. Now we're all 5 and below. And, there's talk about Booker T, there's talk about Lake Taylor. At one point, Granby High School was one of the most technically advanced high schools when it reopened in '99 after its graduation. It's sort of back now crumbling in on itself. It's an aging school. We have the big Maury conversation they had 2 Thursdays ago. There's no plan, we just keep talking about it. I personally think that we have to close certain schools. And I know it's a very, very easy answer is yes, we have to close schools, but it's a difficult solution and one that they're not even talking about. So I think personally, I think that's where, Dr. Birdsong, I think the school board, I think city council, city manager has to get involved in it. We have to make the decision. Us continuing to, kick the soccer ball down the hallway is not helping our school system. Teachers are leaving, people are voting with their feet and leaving our city. They're going somewhere else. We have classrooms across the board that don't have any students in them. They're just closed. And yet you got Virginia Beach, you got the Chesapeake, and those schools are busted at the seams. They have look like a modular field out there with all their schools out there, or modular classrooms out there. And we have to do something about it. And we're not making decisions. We do not have action from the top down in our city. And you know what? You got to make the hard decision. And if you close the school, you close the school, or you take something else offline. And if we did that, but we have to have a plan, not just to close the school, but what are we going to do with that property? If you're going to close Lake Taylor, what are you going to do with that property? You know, you're going to turn it into a taxable asset. What's going to happen there? If you're going to close Lake Taylor, you know, Booker T. You know, what about Maury High School? I mean, why would that be even off the table in some ways? I mean, if you're talking about building a school, well, just don't build a new school. Push the kids somewhere else. Let's have that conversation. It's not a happy one, but let's have a conversation.
All the rules and regulations.
And I got some Commodores back here, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, it's got to all be on the table. It can't be in a certain specific neighborhood or a certain school.
Right.
It's got to be, all the schools have to be on that table, without a doubt, because they're all aging out. Even more, I mean, Granby High School is pushed on 26 years old, that building.
Really, it's hard to believe.
I mean, if you think about it, we have around 50 schools in Norfolk, and if the average lifespan is what they're telling us, about 50 years, so we should almost be building a new school almost every year roughly. You maybe stretch that out a little bit longer, but if you're doing the math as a finance person, you're thinking like, hey, what's the lifespan of a school? I mean, Maury's a whole school. Maury didn't fall apart yesterday. It's been deteriorating for years, 20 years, and we've not done anything about it. And then one of the people that went to the meeting said, yeah, well, they're looking at building this school, which might come online if they started now or close to it, 2028, 2029. That's 4 or 5 years from now. What are you gonna do? Is there a maintenance plan to keep the school, you know, what?
All the rules and regulations that you have to abide by as a mayor and the city council and the people sitting on the school board and make judgment for the city of Norfolk. Is there anything in there that says you have to live in the city of Norfolk?
As a mayor and.
No, as a resident of the city of Norfolk, to be on the city council, to be a mayor, or to sit on the board of
Yes.
directors of the school board.
Yes, you have to run, you have to live in that area. The thing with the ward system is you have to actually live in that ward. And I, as mayor, have to live in Norfolk. So I can live in any of the wards,
Right.
but everybody, or in a super ward can live in a certain area there, because they represent the other wards. So yes, if you're thinking about the city manager, no. Or the superintendent, no. So,
Okay.
it's highly encouraged, but I don't know, I know Mr. Filer didn't live in Norfolk until maybe 2 years ago or something like that. That was a big topic with COVID and other pieces though. Yeah, you're smirking, why do you?
Well, I mean, if you don't live in the city that you represent, or supposed to be a figurehead in the city, you got no game, you got no fight in the game.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I think if you're the city manager, if you're the chief of police, if you're chief of the fire department, I think you should live in the city. I think if you've taken that job, you should have to live here. I can understand if you have to sell your residence or have to do something like that, but we also are thinking global scale. Like we hire from our little circle right here sometimes, which might not always be the best. But if somebody, that's like saying, hey, we're gonna hire the chief of police, but he or she is gonna live in Ohio. There's not much difference there is a difference, but think about the concept, like, well, okay, but they live in Suffolk. No, they need to live here. That's where, if there's an issue, they need to be they need to be here on scene. So, there's not a rule for those, but there is for council and, council, school board, mayor.
Okay.
All right?
So to clarify that, so council, school board, and mayor have to be living in the city
And in their districts.
and the district.
Or their
But the
wards. I said
city-
district, I think it
but
should
the
be.
city manager and what kind of superintendent?
Superintendent of schools.
Superintendent, okay.
Yep. Or
and-
economic development director,
And the police department, and they don't have to.
Correct.
Police and fire?
No, nobody has to live in the city.
Okay.
Our neighborhood specialist was from New York.
Yeah, they're not required to live in the city. You're talking about the chief of police and things of that nature, not the
Right.
actual police officer.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, questions? Up front? You've been a lively group. You got one?
I was just gonna say we have a few more minutes. You wanna give a little promotion for 4 kids?
For 4 kids? Oh, absolutely. So for those of you that don't know anything about 4 Kids, it's a grassroots organization. It is now located over in Chesapeake. They like to call it South Norfolk, but it's the way they keep in ties with Norfolk. I was very disappointed again being on the board and they moved over there. But it's a grassroots organization. Dale McCormick is the president and CEO. The idea there is the concept is to break the cycle of homelessness by with the children. One of the things that I, being in the downtown 100 and moving through the downtown Norfolk Council was we started a program called Hot Meals and Homework, where the kids would get out of school, they'd come to the facility, which is located on Colley Avenue at the time, and drop them off, we'd go in and tutor them, and then we'd have special restaurants that would sponsor meals and go home, so the Hot Meals and Homework started. But with 4 Kids, it's now located over there as far as in South Norfolk. They teach them how to balance their checkbooks, they teach them how to grocery shop, they teach how to get a job, how to dress for a job. There is services, they work on how to pay their bills, how to figure out transportation. Typically, the idea is that they go through transition, it could be anywhere between 8 to 12 months, maybe a little bit longer. And then they'll move out into other housing that's in the area, whether it's in Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Suffolk, that area over there. But it's been a great group with 4 kids. What do you know about them?
Do not.
Oh.
I'm gonna have to look it up.
Oh, it's they are fan. Their big part is that start with you want to help the parents. A lot of times it's the moms, but you want to help them. But you want to really grab the children, and that's where it's been very frustrating with the educational system, because those children are definitely at-risk children. So we bring them in, we work with them, and make sure they're getting everything that they can possibly need. There used to be a thrift store over on Granby Street that's now closed, so now they're encouraging CHKD and Union Mission.
Excuse me,
Yep.
so is this a 4 Kids?
FOR
F-O.
KIDS, no space.
Okay, and is there a website?
Yep, www.4kids.org.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes. No, it's a really, they will give you a tour of the facility, anytime you want. It's no toll to get over there, by the way. To get back, but it's a really good group. And they have other houses still. We have Haven House, there's other places that we would incorporate in that, but it's a really good plan. It's designed for short-term help, but with long-term solutions. Thanks for that plug. Yeah. All right, well, I'll turn it back over. Thank you. I'll be here. I'll hang out. There's some signs if you want. You have my cards. I have, go to my website. You can like me on Facebook. You can follow me, send me questions. There's a Tell Tommy up there. You can also request signs. And certainly if you want to do something at your house, you want me to stop by. I've done a couple of, stopped by a few neighbors' houses that have invited me over, and we just hang out in the front porch or in their front yard, ask them questions, stay for 15 minutes, 30 minutes. And it's been really nice. And certainly listening to you, a lot of great questions. I know I'll get fact checked over here at some point again, but I'm feeling pretty confident with my answers. And turn it back to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Just to clarify, 4 Kids is at 1001 Poindexter Street in Chesapeake.
Thank you.
Does anybody have something they would like to bring up?
Make sure everybody's signed in, please.